Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of KingQuest, which is my personal journey to read every single thing, book, adaptation, whatever, dealing with Stephen King. This week or 2 weeks, I don't know. It seems like this is a 2 week cycle at this point with how I'm reading these books, which not bad considering the amount I gotta do. Regardless, this episode we're going to be talking about Night Shift, Stephen King's first short story collection, first anthology series, which honestly I think is like some of his best work, is like all of the anthology books. Personally, for me, I always like short stories, especially like anthology collections. I always grown up reading about myths, fairy tales, legends. So a lot of the stories that I've read were naturally short anyway. And with horror, it's like you gotta condense a lot of the setting and build up into something very punchy. Something that could be like between 20 pages at max, 6 pages sometimes. So you could just gotta like take what it gives you, and you could play around a lot with that. Especially since you don't have time necessarily to build up on those feelings of horror and fear. You just gotta like go at it from the get go. So, but because of that, I'm trying to figure out how I want to talk about this. Because I love Night Shift. Great book, honestly. I don't remember if that was my first anthology of King or if Nightmares and Dreamscape was when I was like reading as much King as I could when I was first introduced to him. But a lot of the stories in Night Shift are like some of the best in my opinion. Like fun ones, scary ones, sad ones. There's just like a really solid collection. But because they are again short stories, it is hard to figure out how I'm going to talk about these. I feel like I'm going to have to talk about them overall. Like maybe just go at it one at a time, just give quick punchy things. Like I honestly don't expect this video to be long at all. Like I'm pretty sure I'm just only gonna give like 2-3 minute summaries of what each story is about because or like why I like each story. God forbid spoilers. But yeah, it's just like I it's hard to figure out, like you could probably touch if you go deep into it about the themes and fears and things like that for each of the books or each of the stories, which part of the reason why I like Stephen King is like he definitely captures the fear of someone had quote like Americana. Like he is an American writer and so a lot of the stories that he tells is just so American in like its people, settings, behaviors that like it's just straight up America no matter what. And so you get to see what the fears are based on the horror stories. So you get to see like in our culture during this time period, what were people afraid of? What were they thinking about? Why were they afraid of these things? And so you see like a lot of different topics and ideas are being punched together through his short stories. None of these stories are like thematic in a way like how some short story collections, how some anthologies have themes. Nothing like this. This is basically whatever Stephen King had or had previously published in different magazines. They just compiled that all together to be in a book format to read through. I think yeah, so I think I'm just gonna talk about them one by one. They're so good. There's so many good ones that I absolutely love. For better, for worse, for mess. Well, I guess like a good way for me to start out with this is just flat out because I've read this before. I've read this decades. Well, not decades ago. I'm not that old, God. But I definitely read this like a while back, probably in like high school. So a lot of these stories, even though when I'm like rereading them through newer and fresher eyes, like even if I didn't remember all of them or how they were per se, a lot of these stories stuck with me. And it was like one of those things is like I remember reading this. I remember this part. This was like this I could never let me go. And so looking at this list, the Mangler stuck with me. Not a lot, but it definitely stuck with me of just like the horrible evil laundry pressing machine and how messed up would it be if like demons possessed everyday living things just to mess with us. The ones that really stuck with me though is Strawberry Spring and The Ledge. God, I love the setting and the setup of Strawberry Spring of like the atmosphere that's tense yet romanticized the entire time. And with the ledge, like the whole tensity of just walking on the edge of a skyscraper no matter what. Like that just stuck with me all the way through. So, yeah, I think like that's the best like honestly like and Quitters Inc. I gotta throw out there. The mafia based support group definitely does also stick with you of just like why are they doing this? I guess that it's nice that they are working well and like working this doing this nice enough, but like that's pretty messed up if you think about it. So those three definitely stuck with me as like no matter what happens, I will always remember those. But there's still a lot of great stories written in here. And yeah, I guess like best way is just quickly run through each and every one of them and like what my thoughts were. The first things is honestly not even the stories by Night Shift, it's the foreword and introduction. The foreword was written by John D. MacDonald, which, you know, is probably like another author, another writer. I don't know if he's horror or not. I haven't actually looked I actually haven't looked him up. Like God forbid I do research when making these things. But I like his foreword of just like about this short story collection cuz he's just talking about the need to write and writing for your own pleasure. Like specifically the quote that I have here is he does not write to please you. He writes to please himself, which I believe it is a beautiful thing that everyone needs to agree on whenever they're doing any work. Like, sometimes you gotta do stuff for yourself. Even if other people don't enjoy it, as long as you enjoy it, you're good. Play to the audience of one, the one being you. He's so, like, snarky of anyone who says that they were trying to be a writer throughout all this. It's like, no, you need to have dedication and write. Like, that's all you need to do is just write. You can't try to be a writer. You could be a writer at any level when you want to write. You just gotta write, which is good point. As long as you write for yourself, you will go places and you will be a writer. And with Stephen King's introduction, it's just there's something about when he's just writing to his readers that it makes you feel homey. It makes you feel comforted and warm, even though he's talking about like the really messed up fears of there's a lump underneath the blanket and you're not sure what it is, but it's moving and it might come and get you. But what are you gonna do about it? Are you gonna touch it? Poke it? Are we gonna ignore it? Are we gonna sleep on it? But we should watch. There's like a nice comforting feeling of him talking about why people like horror, why people want to read or watch horror stories and just like the fear is not your own. It is a universal thing and he is just showing you the way but is also acknowledging that, you know, everyone gets scared. And I think that is wonderful. Also, I got another quote that I like from him that I just had to write down. If the story does hold you, all else can be forgiven. And isn't that basically the rub of everything for every single book? Like, I will never put down a book that I hate because it is still engaging for me to read. A book can be poorly written, it could be poorly talked about, it could have bad plot points, but as long as it's entertaining, it's gonna grip you and you just gotta keep on reading. And that's, I think, is like the mark of success. Not whether or not you are good or bad as a writer, but whether or not you could tell an entertaining story. And as long as someone thought it's entertaining, and as long as that person is at least you did a good job. So it's a nice way of starting out these anthologies, just reading about how these writers view their own writing, view writing as an act itself, and view horror as its own thing. So let's talk about these stories. Let's start with Jerusalem's Lot. That is the very first book, very first story out of this Night Shift collection, which is a prequel essentially to. Isn't Jerusalem's Lot a bit messed up? I'm pretty sure they had like a low key like mention of Barlow when he was under a different name and doing artifact or antiques furniture stuff coming around here, but yeah, it seems like Jerusalem's Lot has always been cursed, and it's been cursed for different reasons. And we get like these 1800s vibe, story writing, journalistic style of seeing people dealing with like the walls, there's creaks, there's things cluttering about, family legacy haunting you and like pulling you to more honestly, eldritch horror, evil demons, space worms, or ground worms, however you want to call it. Honestly, when I was reading this, like the vibes were good in like setting up how spooky and creepy Jerusalem's Lot was originally, and like all the cult bullshit. But once they actually start talking about this eldritch space worm coming out and like destroying the world or trying to, it sort of got lost on me just a little bit. Just a little bit of just trying to like imagine what the action was going on. But it is pretty good, honestly. Like it's nice that whatever they were viewing the world as of like evil druid, I think it was like evil druid magic and stuff. It's like, well, I mean, I will forgive you for that as a character because you're 1800s old timey man trying to be reasonable but also dealing with like unknown cult sciences. So good for you. Good luck. It also it's sort of like I like kudos to the guy of like he's the last one standing so he needs to kill himself to make sure that none of this happens. Good for him. Doesn't help at all because it turns out that he has another bastard cousin or whatever, then the cycle repeats. So they're gonna have to like deal with that. It's not necessarily a happy ending, but a very interesting one. And I guess if we take this as a prequel to Salem's Lot anyway, like dealing with like desecrated churches and dark mass holy dark rituals, whatever it is. I mean, the town lives because the whole Salem's Lot book has to happen in Salem's Lot, so at least the worm doesn't kill us all. That's a good start. All right, so the next story that we got here is Graveyard Shift, and I remembered the movie not as much when I have thought about it. Like I knew that the Graveyard Shift was about rats because I remember watching the movie when I sort of vaguely remembered what the story was, and the movie was about rats. And rereading Night Shift again, I vaguely remembered the movie being about rats as I was rereading Graveyard Shift, which it's really fun. I just sort of like noticed like the smallest thing of them like working minimum wage for $1.78. God, what a time to be alive in 1970s. It's so nice to just see because it was written in modern times during the time it was written, but it's just like what a time capsule to just be stuck at to like let us see what this view is like. And yeah, honestly reading this book, I don't know if anyone has ever listened to the Magnus Archives and the whole fears deconstruction of fears within that podcast. But reading this gives me a lot of corruption vibes, if anyone understands that. Like, there's a lot of disease, concerns about being rotted, or concerns about being poisoned, or, plagued by rats, literally with a bunch of rats, and then getting bit by rats and figuring out like being plagued by that, dealing with dealing with that, and then like slowly seeing that the rats are becoming more and more messed up rats and flying bat rats and just being evil little rat things and giant, like I think they were legless by the time we saw like the giant ass queen rat that just lives in the basement of this horrible place. So there's like a lot of, and it's told very well. Like it definitely grips you when you're just like seeing how it just progresses of people are just dealing with more and more rats trying to clean out this basement. This basement sucks. The foreman is trying to power trip everyone, and the especially like our protagonist, which is the dude with the college degree who keeps dreaming about rats. Again, more Magnus Archives vibes. And eventually he just pulls one over, takes him down to the rat dungeon, and sees what's going on and just lets him get eaten by rats, and then ends up also being eaten by rats. Like there's no there's no winning to Rat Boy in the rat story. It's just it's a bit fucked up, isn't it? But god, it was a lot of fun just to read. It was a lot of fun to read and just see like, isn't that a messed up scenario? Next story that we got going on here is Night Surf, and that one, it's a bit of a calm, quiet, a bit of like a soft, reflective fear of the situation going on and just waiting for it to hit you, for it to impact you. The setup for this story is that A6, a plague virus, is infecting and impacting the entire country and the world, and you just sort of see people like waiting to die from it or dealing with it in ways that they can, which is just being by themselves on a beach with their friends, hearing seeing someone die from it or killing them outright just cuz they're going to die anyway, and then waiting to for them to get themselves infected. Yeah, a lot of COVID vibes. Like, not gonna lie, just like rereading that, and I'm just thinking, like, that was the world I actually lived in, which is wild to think about. I read The Stand when I was freshman in college as like this good versus evil ultimate horror thing, and it's gonna be weird when I eventually reread it again because it's definitely going to bring up COVID memories of actually living through a pandemic like that. Like, holy shit, that was my life at one point or another. And honestly, I'm pretty sure that some people have lived through that of just like being with everyone and then learning that you got infected by COVID, learning that you might pass it around to other people, and like what are you gonna do? It's essentially like, especially without the vaccine, what's gonna happen? So that's, yeah, it's a good story. It's like this calm quiet thing, but yeah, it's gonna be it's a little trippy and a little heavy, especially like if we all remember how COVID was like. Next one we got is I Am the Doorway, story number 4. That one, honestly, like, it's a little fun. It reminds me a lot of Illustrated Man because Illustrated Man has a lot of those space time adventure horror anthology books. So I don't know if this was like King's attempt or homage to being like another space time travel like Illustrated Man, but it definitely gives out the vibes of just like exploring places, exploring planets, picking up something that you shouldn't have, and then just being infected by it. Like, not even used, like, you yourself are not killed by these things, but are rather used to see through as like a study. I don't even know if the aliens were like intentional about this. I mean, like, eventually they were intentional because they killed people, multiple, and used our main protagonist, our astronaut guy, as a way of like covering up the bodies so they knew that they were doing wrong if they didn't want to get caught doing it. But like the idea that you don't even know what they're after or what they want, and there's no way to ask them, and you just have to deal with these creatures, things, beings taking control of you. Like, honestly, anyone that is dealing with a supernatural situation and their determination is I need to mutilate myself to prevent more harm, yeah, they get my fullest respects, honestly. Like, I don't know if I would ever have the guts to burn my own hands off and live with two hooks like a pirate, but like, good for you, especially at the end where it just goes like, I'm writing this so that way when I kill myself because the eyes are coming back. Like, yikes. So, very spacey. Next one that we got here is the Mangler. That is the one where it's just like evil laundry, evil possessed laundry flat press thing. I'm not entirely sure what it looks like in terms of industrial laundry persons, but I appreciate just like the setup in the beginning of just like seeing how this poor woman got killed by it initially, and the cops like he's seen worse, and then you actually see what the mangler did to a person. It's like, oh no, not like this. And that's a great way to start of just like a person trying to be folded in with like different body parts as a towel. Like, we gotta love when technology comes and bites us in the ass. There's also like, it's such a small minor thing, but there's also like this small story of the inspector talking about how, oh, I believe things can become evil and supernatural with this evil fridge that killed some woman's dog, then ended up killing like a bunch of seagulls. And then when she tried to get rid of the refrigerator, it somehow managed to find and pull and kill her son trapped inside of the refrigerator. So a lot of like spiritually demonic evil machinery happening with Stephen King with these books. Like, not quite like Shining level of possessed house, possessed place, but more like object interaction. Like, this is a thing that we can use, that we can have. It's not that the ghosts are coming around. It's like, no, this thing is moving and is evil. And yeah, the hubris of these people without trying to do any more research or try to take care or like looking into it and stuff, unfortunately got in over their own heads, and the demon monster thing sort of like, what was it, Monster House? I had the image of Monster House as I was like reading this thing of just like it coming to life and moving around and starting to kill everyone. But it's a fun story when it's written as like this like detective noir ghost story of trying to investigate it, trying to figure out what's going on, trying to solve it, and then nope, oops, bye. You guys made things worse, unfortunately. Up next, we got here story number 6 is The Boogeyman. I didn't remember reading this one, but when I reread this one, yikes, there's a lot of complex feelings of like this dad trying to, not necessarily the greatest guy. The more you read about it, the more you're like, well, you're a bit of a dick. Talking about like how his wife is a pushover because she let him have sex with her, and the therapist calls him out on that. The Him talking about like how he's not really there to help with his kids and is like trying to toughen them up at age 1, at age 2, of like being normal kids and stuff. How he's like letting his pride get in the way. Like, he's a very complex guy, and when he's telling the story of essentially all of his kids are dying. And all of his kids are dying in a way of just like screaming that there's a monster in the closet. They refuse to believe he refused to believe his kids, and they end up getting killed in more and more horrific ways until it gets to the point of like he knows that something is there, that is something is happening, and he eventually just lets his kid, like, gives up his child to sacrifice so this thing can eat his son instead of him. Like, that is horrible. I got like some good quotes about how this dude is such an asshole. Like, he loved his son in spite of, he said it almost vengefully, him loving his son, as if he had loved the child to spite his wife. Like, what a great way of having a relationship. And the second one is like, when they're that little, when the child is dead and trying to like move on with his life, and he's like can't understand why his wife is sad. When they're that little, you don't get attached to them. Like, this is also when we just talked over about how he was crying over his daughter being dead in the crib at, again, age 1, age 2, and now he's saying stuff like, you don't get attached. I don't understand why my wife is like this. Like, you want to hit him on the head, but also he's talking about this horrific monster thing stalking him and getting on his nerves and killing his children and killing him as well. Like, oof, there's a lot of grief to it, and it does not end well for this guy. It's more of like, a lot of these stories actually have like a more of a ambiguous open ending to it. There's no happy ending for any of them, really. It's just, some of them are good, but in a, like a dark, like, some of them you could say they are quote unquote happy, but more in a dark, twisted way, not necessarily a victory as we are inspiring for. Next one is Gray Matter. Obviously, that one's a fun story. It reminds me again of the Magnus Archives as the Flesh. This time of like this bulbous man slowly but surely turning into like the Blob as he keeps drinking beer and just becoming bigger and bigger and more destructive. And it's just like the build up, the reveal, and the unknown of like whether or not he's actually dead, is he alive? It's just fun all the way around. Battleground, yeah, this one I completely forgot about Battleground. It's just like, it's a stupid, silly story. An assassin kills a toy maker so his mom gets revenge by sending her own plastic army men to kill him, like sending him a package to kill this guy and just like make sure that he's dead. So he's being attacked by plastic little guns, plastic little knives, plastic bazookas, and helicopters and stuff. And it's just like, yeah, it's a fun read. It's a short read. There's nothing too serious about it, but it was all right. Next up is Trucks. Trucks is a fun story, especially if y'all have heard of Maximum Overdrive, the movie. This is the short story that it was based on. Uh, Trucks are now alive. They are running people over. We got our diner crew, which is like a bunch of just like a couple, our main character, a random truck driver, the owner of the diner, bar, gas station, wherever they're sitting at, and they're just trying to survive, dealing with the trucks that are outside, trying to save up on water, trying to save up on food. This is again like more of the technology stuff, like the machines, they're taking over. They're now going to re-image the world into their own way of just like paving the world into like nothing but unlimited concrete, which, like, I guess in terms of cars and stuff, that would be the ultimate paradise. They won't get gas eventually, but I mean, like, that's like a future generation problem. In the current situation, you just gotta live and deal with it. uh, I don't know if it's like a commentary of just like, because they talked about there's so many different types of trucks and cars and buses and planes and stuff that exist. So it could be talking about, America's car culture, how we're so dependent on cars, what happens if they turn on us. Or maybe it's just like a staple of capitalism of like you gotta feed the machines, become another part of the cog that you yourself aren't sure of. I mean, it could also just be like a bunch of fucking trucks somehow come to life like Junji Ito style and it's just trying to kill people and eat more gas. Like, it might not even be that deep. But it is a lot of fun, especially like in this moment where you hear this one dude who got hit by a car, ran over in a ditch, saying like "Help me," and the girlfriend is looking at that and trying to be like, well, "Should we go out and get him?" And the dude's like, we're gonna ignore that because otherwise we'll be killed. You could do something, but if you do something, you're gonna make a noise and you're gonna wake up your boyfriend, and your boyfriend's gonna do something, and your boyfriend's gonna run outside to try to help this guy with the evil trucks. What are you gonna do? And the girlfriend's like, I did not hear anything either. It is completely silent. Which is like, it's callous, but it's brutal, but it's so human of like, why unfortunately, like, yes, you want to do what you can to help people, but would you do that in the risk to risk yourself or others that you love? Would you do that? It's just like this really brutal human moment of seeing someone's priority gets readjusted or morality gets affirmed of like, I did want to help but not at the cost of the person that I love. Next one is Sometimes They Come Back. I haven't seen it yet. I didn't actually remember this story when I was like rereading it, but I remember seeing that there was a movie about it. And after rereading the short story, I'm excited for it. Just like this idea of evil will still follow you no matter what. There's no rhyme or reason why these ghost teenager people somehow is just trying to like fuck with this guy that they failed to kill when he was a child. So they just want to make sure that they do the deed right and kill him off now that he's older and they have returned, quote unquote. I don't know if this was just like maybe they made a deal with the devil to come back. Maybe they just really had unfinished business and that was killing the other kid, but it's just like this slow burn of all of his good kids that he like the main character, the teacher, all the good kids that he likes in his class slowly being picked off one by one and replaced with the other spirits of the people that had essentially traumatized him and killed his brother. Like, that's so messed up. And then essentially recreating that moment to seal the deal and get revenge and to put an end to it once and for all. Like, he's not sure if he essentially called something much worse in order to deal with it. And, like, maybe he'll be worse off in the long run. But at least he got those terrible hoodlums out of the way. They're drowned in hell or dead, like double dead. After that one, we meet the halfway point, so we're on the second half, and we're at Strawberry Spring. And again, this is the one that stuck with me because I loved it. I love this story so much of like this slow build that tends to like romanticize the fog that had come in to this fall, spring, and winter to make it just warm enough, but they were talking about like the lover's embrace of people. You can't necessarily see the forms, just the shadows. Them talking about how the killer spring heeled Jack was a man, but that the fog was a woman, and how they were in an embrace of just being alone, but also like all of these deaths coming out with these women being killed, and you're not entirely sure who it is until near the end where you like read the guy going out for a drive in his car when the strawberry spring returns and potentially maybe also killing someone, and maybe he was the true killer this entire time. Ooh, chills. Again, it's a very short story. I think it's only like a few pages, but at least like in the copy that I got, who knows what the actual page count will be in like a normal size book, but it was still fun to read. And yeah, like as soon as you get to like sometimes they comes back, you just get like a bunch of bangers, just especially in this back half, just like going at it, boom, 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 boom. Because the next one is the ledge, and that one always one of my favorites. Of just like you try to playing psychological mental games with a guy that has so much power over our protagonist, over our main character, and makes a wager because he's so posh and he is so classy, of just like, can you walk around the building on the outside in the dead of winter with no help or support whatsoever, and then maybe you'll live and I'll give you money and I'll leave you alone. So like this tension of just hearing this guy trying to survive himself, like trying to push through, not even caring about the prison sentence, which hearing like the bad guys like three-part plan of I'm gonna put heroin in your car until you do it, and then I'm gonna call them off once you actually do it, and then I'll make sure that you're just like dead once you're, if you ever dropped off the ledge or just be into jail because of the heroin in your car. Like, this dude has thought a lot for trying to make sure that no one gets up over him. And we just see like this struggle of trying to piece together what's going on, him putting through this ledge and putting into this psychologically frustrating situation of trying to like survive this. And then just like the killer at the end where we find out that the wife, the person that he's in love with, the wife of like this drug dealer maniac, is has always been dead since this point. So there was no point in them doing it, and then we turn the tables onto the bad guy and just like, you walk the ledge this time. Like, ah, oh, so good. It is so good of just like he gets his revenge for essentially not, like, all of this was pointless, but I'm gonna get my revenge one way or the other. Well, I guess I do have a lot more to talk about, considering like it's been like over 30 minutes already, and we're only halfway, or we're more than halfway through the books, but there's a shit ton of short stories in here. What do you want me to say about it? Lawnmower Man. This one was a messed up one. Like, it really is. It's another one of those fun, stupid ones, but this one stuck with me more of just like a naked man with a magical lawnmower that can cut grass on its own is like cutting grass and then does a ritual sacrifice for good grass. That's it. There's nothing more to it. It's just like, wouldn't this be messed up? And it is, and it's weird, and it's fun, weird. It's definitely nothing like the movie. Do not trust the movie if you watch the movie Lawnmower Man. Do not trust it 100%. It is a lie. Next one is Quitters Inc. And this one is another one that sticks with you. Like, if you are using the mafia and you're using mafia tactics and using the power of love and a person's love connection to quit smoking and lose weight. And we're gonna do that by hurting your wife, hurting your child, keep hurting your wife and child, hurt you, your wife, and your child simultaneously, keep doing all three, and eventually, if you keep fucking up, we'll shoot you. Like, it's just like, how much of this addiction will you go through to deal with your family? And there's no way out. Once you sign up for this program, you're there for life. So there's no way out or around this. You just gotta push through, and it's a little messed up. It's also slightly weird that the wife was like, "Oh, you're doing this to help break your addiction. You're really serious about it." Like, it's okay. Thank God that these men exist, so that way all we have to do is just focus on this. Yay! Like, it's a little trippy, but it got him into the best shape of his life, and he just like passes on word of mouth of like, no, this actually does help. Like, I can't, it's hard to, like, when results work and you accept death as part of the time, like, consequences, then I guess results work. Good for you. Good for him and his new life. Next one is I Know What You Need, and I couldn't remember it this was another one that I didn't really remember as I was reading it, but it's just like the subtle manipulation of a man putting himself into a woman's life and like being everything that she wants as a way of being dependent on him. He's not, we find out that it's like mystery, dark powers, evil sorcery, maybe a psychic connection and stuff, but the idea of like this man is like the perfect man for you and everything that you can ever dream of. Why would you want everything different? Like, what does that say about you? What does that say when like when you are in love with a guy that could essentially read your mind and give you everything you want? Like he will update his own behaviors and mannerisms and everything to be exactly what you want. Who are you at that point when you are loving this? Like, do you love him or do you love what he's doing for you? At the same time, like, I can't, like, it's a little bit of pity for him because he's losing his own identity to be exactly what he wants for his lover. But at the same time, we also find out, or like he admits to essentially being a murderous douchebag that is totally willing to use like dark magic to get what he wants and manipulate her and manipulate the situation to be exactly what he wants in his own favor. So it's just like, it's such a good take on dealing with this abusive relationship because that is what it is, even though there was no harm done to her. It's the manipulation that definitely cuts to the core of this, and it's just like a gentle take of her walking away from it. Good for her. You also killed my boyfriend. Like, why do I want to stay with you? Like, so that, honestly, like I said, it's a good story. Solid choice. Next up is what we got is Children of the Corn. This was probably my very first Stephen King movie that I have ever watched when I was 13, and it messed me up a lot throughout like the rest of middle school and high school. Like, I think that movie turned me to religion so fast, even though the whole point of Children of the Corn is like King's take and criticisms on extreme religious, like there's bit in the short story about how they literally are cutting the Bible to suit their own passages and verses and their dark worship of he who walks among the rows. We get to talk about like Bert and um Bert and his wife. I don't remember. God, I remember Bert. I don't remember his wife. And like them dealing with like the divorce, dealing with their separating marriage, him refusing to acknowledge, nah, shit, this town is really weird. We should probably go. And just like he doesn't want to give his wife like a victory for being scared, not believing in him. Also, when he's scared, he doesn't want to admit to it until, he comes back to his car and sees a bunch of murderous children being like killing his ex-wife, or his current wife, but now ex-wife since he is dead wife. And it's just like them dealing with all the fucked up religion that happens in a 12-year span when there's no adults and they keep getting themselves killed at 19 and 18. The last little bit that we see here, just like one of the kids, a girl who's pregnant and is like, she dreams of wanting to burn the corn, but she's afraid because like she knows that he will like read, the demon or their god whatever is like reading into their hearts and will see that, and so she can't. So it's like being trapped, even though you hate this religion, just being trapped in it and forced to continue the cycle. Brutal. Up next, we got like another short one, the last rung on the ladder, which terrifying in and of itself, of just seeing like this childhood memory of almost dying in a barn and having like having like the main guy's sister trust him enough to jump when he says jump, because he'll be there to catch her. And then as you keep reading this, and then as you keep reading their life of like him estraining their relationship, that he finds out that she committed suicide and he wasn't there. Ooh, it's another, not necessarily like a dark, scary story, but definitely sad and tense. Like it really gets to you, especially the family bit. Another short one, a short punchy one really, is The Man Who Loved Flowers. Of just like, you just see this guy who's obviously in love. It's a springtime. Like it's a May spring. Sort of like Strawberry Springs again, where it's like a bit in love. But while Strawberry Spring was a false spring in winter time, this is true spring, and true spring is about true love, and this man is absolutely in love, and everyone sees him, and then when he gives out his flowers to the woman he loves, that's not her, and he just beats the shit out of her with a hammer because she's gonna scream. Like, yeah, and then he just walks away like it's nothing. There's nothing, like, honestly, sometimes that's just how serial killers are. That's just how people are, and that's really messed up, and that's really fucked up, but you just you just got to deal with it. That's how he's going to live his life until he gets caught, and that's sad for him, but it's also sad for everyone else, especially the women he beats with a hammer. One for the Road is a lot of fun. That's like an epilogue of Salem's Lot. Yes, they destroyed and burnt the town. It did burn out a lot of the vampires. Not all of them. Vampires are still a thing, and the neighboring towns knows not to trust Jerusalem's Lot. But in a bad snowstorm, some dude comes up saying that his car got trapped in Jerusalem's Lot, needs help, sort of not believing the locals warning, which, like, I guess if local townspeople are saying like vampires are about, that is a little weird and dangerous, but at the same time, let this be a life lesson to everyone. If the locals are saying like let's not do this thing, there's a reason why. Even if they're not going to say it outright, there's a reason why, and they are alive for that reason. But it's just like, because throughout Salem's Lot we see vampires in the fall where everything is dying. So now in winter time we see the vampires in like this ethereal winter ice thing, and like they're already dead. They're already on top of the snow, not sunk into it, and like his family is already a family of vampires, and there was nothing he could do to save them, and he eventually joins them. So it's not a it's not a happy story, but it does show that, Salem's Lot is still a problem with all the vampires, but it's just like a nice touch to it, I think. All right, the last one that we got here is The Woman in the Room. And oof, this one hurts a lot. I actually, like, this is about a man seeing his mother dealing with surgery, dealing with cancer, not able to feel anything in the hospital, and it's just like, I don't know if I believe, like, as you're reading of just like him just trying to like break through different points of his life, trying to deal with like his complex emotions and not wanting her to suffer anything, because they talked about, unfortunately, one of the points is that she's unable to comprehend times in short time. She's only able to comprehend time in terms of like days, months, and years. So in her mind, her suffering, the pain that she is mentally feeling, is in terms of days, not minutes. And so you see her son is just like wanting to help them, wanting to help her out, and just essentially like mercy kill her. So that way she doesn't have to feel any more pain. And it does hurt a little bit, especially if you have family that is in a situation like that. Like for me personally, I did have a grandma who had Alzheimer's, and she did have memory issues, and she was ill and sick um before she passed on. So this sort of like hits hard. It's not, again, it's not scary. It is like another one of the sad ones. but it's like a sad and a morose type of way. Like it's punchy, essentially. But yeah, those are all the stories that we have here in Night Shift, and I guess just giving everything like 2, 3 minutes to talk is still an hour's worth of video content, more or less. So let's rate this book. Let's just rate this book and end it here. Overall, honestly, like I love the stories here. Cause again, these are like as a time capsule thing, these are touching about a lot of the fears that we have during the time of like when it was published during 1978. We got death of family members either through suicide or just in the hospital. We have trauma, we got more vampires, we have fear of technology, fear of child death with the boogeyman, fear of like losing yourself to aliens, fear of religion or religious hysteria, just like a lot of, you know, just like a lot of different things, possessions, poisoning, disease, a lot of deaths. And again, they're not all happy. A lot of these stories end in like open-endedness of just like they have to live with the situation forever and you don't know whether the monster was killed, whether the monster could be subdued, or if the monster's just gonna wreak havoc. We end before that. So, with me thinking about this, honestly, I think this is like. I think personally, I'm gonna rate it as an A content. It's not S tier. Like, as much as I love a lot of the stories, like Strawberry Spring, Ledge, Quitters Inc., well, actually, I think a lot of the stories are fantastic, honestly. Like, I really do. Not all of them hits. That could be just like a personal preference of me. Like, Battleground with the toy soldiers like fighting against an assassin. It's a silly thing. Lawnmower Man, it's also like another silly thing, and I do like those sad morose ones. It does make you think. It's not necessarily like punchy, but I do think that this is like a great short story collection to just like introduce people to Stephen King, because like he has a wide variety of stories that of like writing and like topics that he writes about, between being like a little silly, being serious, to being like absolutely terrifying. So I think this is like a great story to have. I had fun reading it. And like Stephen King said at the beginning of the thing, as long as you're entertained, it's a good book. I don't think it's S tier because like yes, there's like a lot of good books. I wasn't too like it was a fine story. I liked it well enough, but I'm like not like wowed by stuff like Jerusalem's Lot or I Am the Doorway. I they just weren't my vibe, essentially. Like I did like them for what they were. I just wish they were like either written differently, or I'm not like too into space that much. But throughout all of them, just like overall, yeah, solid collection of short stories, a lot of fun. I think it's pretty good. So I'm gonna give this an A ranking for Stephen King's Night Shift. Now, after that, that's going to be a fun one here, because that is technically, for right now, my last Stephen King book written by Stephen King. Because when I said this is going to be everything that was published, or everything that Stephen King had been published in terms of writing and stuff, this does include other books, like other books that he has been published in, other anthology series of his short stories. So the next book is technically not a Stephen King book, but it has a Stephen King short story. Next one is going to be Tales of Unknown Horror from 1978. I managed to get a copy of them off of eBay, between Tales of Unknown Horror and More Tales of Unknown Horror. So I have that to read, and that's what I'm going to be talking about next time. So, Have a good one.